Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for your introduction. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege also for me to be here and have the opportunity to contribute to this Sagamata Sambad and to experience this event along with you. What I aim to do with this keynote presentation is to provide some inputs to this dialogue from science. And from an institution, International Water Management Institute, and the larger family of institutes that we are a member of, the CGIR, drawing upon knowledge that we generate by working closely in partnerships, that bridge gaps between science and policy and action. It's clear from this event that mountain systems are under great pressure, and our job in science and in research for development is to provide ideas, evidence and innovation to help governments and help communities respond to those great pressures. This pressure on mountain systems is felt, of course, in numerous ways, and not least food security. I found working with my colleagues in preparing for this event and this presentation, I found these simple statistics on the screen quite shocking, actually, that 30% of the population in this region face food insecurity, and some 50% face some form of malnutrition. And these threats to food security are getting worse, not better, as the region deals with, as the chair just outlined, as the region deals with rapid socioeconomic and environmental change, and now climate change as well on top of that. And in Nepal, food security is a reality for communities, especially as you see on the map on the screen in western Nepal, where it can reach, food insecurity can reach as high as 60%. And it's telling to consider why. If we look at the components of food security, the building blocks, the basic framework for understanding food security that we use, those components are under pressure because of systemic change across the whole system: migration, urbanization, infrastructure, markets, local food system disruption, and climate change. These are weakening, as you see on the screen, on the right-hand side of the screen, those basic components, weakening the availability of food, access to food, utilization of food, and the stability of the food system. So when we consider resilience, we need to reinforce this system, put in place governance and capacities, infrastructure and ecosystem health that will help communities and national systems to counteract these pressures, to turn that downward spiral of the system into one that's able to withstand shocks and stresses and rebuild. In the scientific community, we call this system the social ecological system, bringing together the people and the ecosystems and nature and the environments in which and resources in which we live and in which our economies function. So climate change is a major direct and indirect driver for the shocks and stresses that mountain regions are facing. And given then this context also of food insecurity, our objective must therefore be to build resilience in agriculture and food systems to climate change in these mountain systems. So I will use the rest of this presentation then to lay out what we're learning about building resilience in food systems. And first, as I do that, I want to put water at the center. That reflects who I am, what I work on, what my institute works on, but also the fundamental reality that the principal ways in which we experience climate change are through water: floods and droughts and extreme events and shifts in monsoon seasons and changes in water flows. So that fundamentally, climate change is water change in many of its dimensions. And climate change is reconfiguring the water system, and as we like to say, water is then the claws and teeth of climate change. So that the IPCC concluded in its 2021 assessment report, and we have Dr. Aditi Mukherjee with us in the audience, who was the lead, co-lead author for the water chapter of that assessment report. They concluded that water-related risks are predicted to increase with every degree of global warming. Every degree of further warming further increases the risks that we face in relation to water and that we must respond to and manage. And in the South Asia region, of course, the effects of climate change are compounded by the changes in the cryosphere, the loss of glaciers, the retreat of glaciers, leading to the phenomenon projected by Isimod of peak water in the middle of the 21st century, in the basins that are fed by the water towers of the Hindu Kush Himalaya, increasing flows to mid-century, then declining water availability thereafter, and given the geography of this region of the world, putting the food, water, and energy security of some 2 billion people at risk. The result is changing mountain ecosystems, changes in livelihoods, changes in agricultural production, and climate disasters. For example, the human and economic devastation that was caused by the Malamchi flood in Nepal in 2021, or the droughts experienced here in Nepal in the Terai in 2023, or the floods in September 2024 in the central region of Nepal, costing lives and a terrible economic cost as well. So climate change is also driving changes directly then in the agricultural system. As crop choices by farmers and the distribution of crops respond to shifts in the agricultural calendar as rainy seasons shift and the duration of seasons changes because of migration, because of the changes in diets. And then alongside this, as mountain regions warm and ecological zones therefore rise in elevation, reducing the amount of land available for production, changing exposure to pests and diseases, and changing access to water for production. Just one further piece of context then before moving on to how we might respond. And this is, I want also to consider the report of the Global Commission on the Economics of Water, which was published in October of 2024, so just recently. This was a commission, a high-level commission that was co-chaired by a set of eminent global leaders from government, diplomacy, and science. And this commission, it set out to reshape a new economics of water, or as they put it, an economy that will work for water rather than putting water to work for the economy. They concluded that the world faces a growing water disaster, as you see in the green box at the top of the screen, a growing water disaster, so that for the first time in human history, the hydrological cycle is out of balance, putting at risk the sustainability and equity in the future for everyone. They called, and this is based, on climate change, yes, but also, of course, widespread across the globe. At continental scales, conversion of land and loss of ecosystems. They called this a danger to humanity. They called for radical change. They set out a framework for missions in how to respond to that radical change. And the first, a framework of 5 missions. And the first of those missions is to launch a food systems revolution that's catalyzed through water and the management of water, land, and soil, to help tackle what the IPC Special Report on Food Security described as the convergence of vulnerabilities that people in this region that people face. The challenges then that we're confronting in mountain regions are therefore, of course, complex. That's clear from this event. Hunger, poverty and exclusion and ecosystem breakdown, climate change, and deep uncertainty about future climate and future water risks. It's key to recognize that all of these wicked water problems, as we call them, water connects them all. We call them wicked because they all affect each other, with the implication that solutions for one must work. They must be high enough quality solutions that they'll work, at least in some way, for those other complex, wicked challenges. But the flip side of that, if we're really effective, is that with the right solutions for water, we can help manage the system and steer change across these wicked problems, across solutions, across food, land, and water systems to help us resolve these problems. I said earlier that to respond to pressures on food security in mountain regions, our objective has to be to build resilience. And because water sits at the heart of climate change and connects across that set of wicked problems, then water solutions can help us build that resilience, because water is systemic. Remember, I said we needed to change the social ecological system that around all of this functions. So water solutions can help us build resilience. So consider this framework that's on the screen. It has 4 components, and in the middle of it, they're nested. The components are nested. The central component is infrastructure and technology and management. I like to, when I talk about resilience, I like to start with that, because people's assumption is normally that technology is enough, and infrastructure is enough to bring resilience. But it has to work alongside these other components of this framework. So alongside that, the next layer out, diversity and connectivity, so that in the system we ensure we have options and redundancies in order to be able to respond to shocks and stresses. And inform that next layer out, that is informed by information, data, learning, and making sure people have the skills to use that information and data. And then the outer part of this framework is governance and participation, making sure that you have participation across scales, so that communities are empowered by the layers above to self-organize to respond to those stresses and strains. So finally then I get to the question of how. How can we apply this to building resilience in agriculture for food security? So I'll start with the inside of that framework, that assumption that technology and infrastructure is what you need. So here you see, starting at the smallest scale, genetics and seed technologies to help build resistance to drought and flood and so on, agronomic practices that sustain and build productivity in face of stresses, and agricultural mechanization. Agricultural water management is clearly, in the face of these kinds of shocks, clearly part of this menu. So agricultural water management in rain-fed agriculture, water storage in different dimensions, built water storage, aquifers, wetlands and natural systems and soils and the way that they store water, and managing those in an integrated way. And then the performance and the productivity of irrigation investments and irrigation systems. There's often an assumption made, I always try to stress this, often an assumption made that the answer to these challenges is more irrigation. And it may well be part of the answer, but it has to go alongside these other components if we're really going to have resilience. Other components, including, for example, nature-based solutions and wetland restoration and spring shed restoration, for example. And technologies also to raise efficiencies in water use in agriculture, and with solar-powered irrigation, coupling that with access to energy and so on. Next layer out in my framework then, system diversity and connectivity. So strengthening resilience by connecting the management of surface waters with the management of groundwaters, by connecting water storage and diversifying water storage, by diversifying sources of water to include water, recycled water in very water scarce contexts, and diversifying farming systems so that they have more options for production while uncertainty expands for climate and water. So agroecology offers us more diversity in farming systems. And next, going out again in the framework, information and learning. And the key here is information to inform those responses to change and the skills and capacities that you need to use that information and apply data in institutions as well as in individuals. And examples of ways of building that are multi-stakeholder platforms and knowledge hubs, self-organization, and applying that knowledge in self-organizing local groups, and connecting that through partnerships to private sector, to levels of governance that sit above, which I'll come to in just a second. And to note here also in the part of the framework dealing with information and data, of course, we're on the cusp of new technologies that give us potential to change the way that this works, and therefore change the way that we work on resilience. One of those examples is digital twins for basin management. So this is a technology that uses a digital rendition of a river basin, folds in all kinds of different data, models, whether that's from satellites, from hydrometeorological observations, citizen science, can fold those into a common system and then use artificial intelligence to enable people to interrogate, ask questions about the system in terms of management interventions, whether that's farmers or river basin offices or government policymakers, to understand the system and the potential to create really unprecedented ways of accessing information and data to change the game, really. The example on the screen is from a digital twin for the Limpopo River Basin that my institute has developed in southern Africa. And so the final part of that framework, governance and participation, so all of that has to be wrapped inside good governance that works across scales, so frameworks of policies, laws and institutions, empowering self-organization at local levels, so aligning decision-making across scales from the highest levels down to local governments and local community-based organizations to meet those multiple and diverse needs that we have in taking resilience forward. So, to finish up, a few takeaways. Mountain regions facing rapid changes in food and water systems and ecosystems. These are putting pressure on already difficult challenges related to food security. All of this is made worse by climate change. With water at the heart of climate change, water solutions can help connect solutions for complex problems across hunger, poverty, and ecosystem breakdown, so central to the challenges of the mountain regions that we've been hearing about today, to help us turn system degradation around and make more resilient systems. So water management is a means of building resilience, but we have to do so. This is key. We have to integrate diverse intervention and investments across those different dimensions of the framework that I showed, meaning that we can't just pick governance. Yes, we're going to work on governance, or we can't just pick technologies. We have to find the means of working collectively through collective action across science, across policy, across government, across the development sector and civil society, communities and businesses. So collective action to work across these systemic frameworks to change the trajectory that we're on. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mark, for that very interesting presentation, particularly focusing on the... You can take your seats here. Thank you. Particularly focus on water as the central to this climate change debate. You have clearly mentioned about that water is a claw and teeth of the climate change, how water can be a growing disaster, but also threatening the availability, but also because water solutions can be resilient, can help build the resilience. So with that, now I would like to welcome our panelists in the dais. I would like to welcome His Excellency Ambassador Bader Omar Al-Dafa. He's the Special Envoy of Minister of Foreign Affairs for Climate Change and Sustainability. Ambassador Al-Dafa is Executive Director of the Global Dryland Alliance, an international organization dedicated to food security in dryland countries. He served as the United Nations Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary of the Economic Social Commission for Western Asia. He has served as Ambassador of Qatar to United States and Permanent Observer to the Organization of American States, and he has enjoyed a long and distinguished career in foreign affairs and non-governmental services, including representing Qatar as Ambassador to Russia, France, Egypt, and Spain. I'd like to welcome you on the dais, Your Excellency. We have another panelist, Dr. Usha Jha. She's the former member to the National Planning Commission. I'd like to welcome you, madam, to the dais. Dr. Usha Jha hails from the village of Madhua of Mahotari district in Madhya province. She became the campus chief of Lamjung campus under Institute of Agriculture and Animal Science in 1995. She has worked with the NGOs, INGOs, and UN agencies where she has gained experience of working with women and type of affirmative actions needed to bring changes in their lives. I really love the way she believes her belief in dependency is not empowering, and she has always worked with the saving-led approach with rural women while working for economic empowerment linking to the entrepreneurship and access to finance. She is also a member of Civil Society Advisory Group to UN Women and think tank member to the Ministry of Women and Social Welfare Council. As a third panelist, I would like to invite Dr. Ganesh Raj Joshi. He is the former secretary to the government of Nepal with specialization in resource economics and policy from UPLB Philippines. He's a former secretary who worked in different ministries of the government of Nepal, including forest and soil conservation, environment, tourism, agriculture, and defense. Dr. Joshi is also a visiting professor in TU and chair of the Center for Green Economy Development. He has contributed as a lead author to Options for Governance chapter in IPBES Asia Pacific Regional Assessment on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, and as an expert in the scoping of the nexus of food, biodiversity, energy, water, and health. I'd like to welcome you also, sir, on the dais. And last but not the least, we have with us Mr. Ken Semiju, is the country representative for Nepal and Bhutan from Food and Agriculture Organization. Prior to his appointment, he has been serving as the FAO country representative for Bhutan and Nepal since July 2021. Prior to this appointment, he served as the FAO representative for Papua New Guinea from 2013 to 2021. He has over 26 years of experience in food security, agricultural and rural development, natural resource management, climate change, disaster risk reduction, and emergency response rehabilitation, primarily with FAO and other UN agencies, UNDP, UNCRD in Asia and Pacific, as well as the Caribbean. So we have a very eminent, rich panelist and speaker here. Okay, so I'd like to welcome you all. And to begin with the panel discussion, I would like to begin with Mr. Ken. It has been widely acknowledged that climate change impact is differential, that we have heard from the beginning. And so the mountain communities, they are impacted differently as they are more vulnerable in terms of physicality, remoteness, and food insecurity. So Ken, with the experience of you working in FAO in food and nutrition security, both in Bhutan and Nepal, what do you see as the major challenges for ensuring food security amid climate change in the mountain region in particular?
Thank you. So, the challenges are many, and also, really more severe for mountain countries and communities in terms of ensuring food security and also sustainable agricultural production vis-a-vis the impacts of climate change. Mountain communities already have inherent problems in terms of ensuring effective and efficient agriculture production because of lack of, for example, arable land. Also lack of irrigation, access to technologies, or lack of agricultural extension, and also lack of labor, and also you have vulnerable communities or indigenous communities are already at risk of increased malnutrition and food security. So you already have these kind of challenges to begin with, and of course you already have migration as well. And but with climate change, and then with this particular region, it's estimated that temperatures may rise up to 2.6 to 4.6 Celsius. And what that does is that that will cause very severe changes in rainfall, cropping systems, farming systems, ecosystems, and that is also going to be coupled with extreme climate events or increased occurrence of extreme climate events such as drought, flooding, a landslide. And again, this is going to result in, again, a further decrease in agriculture production, productivity, and of course food systems. And then you have more people migrating because of climate-induced migration. And this is already happening in Nepal and other countries. So it's really a vicious circle. And also, what is very concerning is that it's the vulnerable groups that I mentioned, whether it's the indigenous or the community groups, or whether it's the persons with disabilities, or a single, for example, headed female households. Those are the people that again, bear the kind of brunt of the negative impacts of this. The impacts of climate change, but then they again, it makes it even for them more difficult to actually build both the institutional and the individual capacity for climate resilience. Because to address all these impacts of climate change, you actually need to build community resilience, both at the individual and institutional level. But the problem is the people are not there. The active labor force, they're migrating. The people that are left behind already have these, various socioeconomic challenges to begin with, and then they have difficulty in accessing the finance, the technology, and the support to deal with these challenges. So, I would say that those are some of the key challenges, in my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Just following up on your statement about the climate-induced migration, because the climate-induced migration is a problem itself for us also in Nepal and many parts of the South Asia region, where the people are getting away from agriculture and a lot of agricultural land remaining fallow. So in this context, what could be the best motivational factors for youth, poor and marginalized farmers, probably women, so that they are engaged in agriculture and food production process?
Well, I think that, it was already mentioned that, the need for kind of an integrated and collective and holistic approach. So it's not just about enhancing infrastructure or enabling access to agricultural extension or technology. You basically need an institutional or an ecosystem for these people to, gain capacities in not just in climate resilience, but also in agricultural, extension and training. I think for the young people, I do think that, with my experience, and because I work with a lot of youth groups and young agri-entrepreneurs, I do think that there is some opportunities, especially in digital agricultural innovation, whether it's artificial intelligence or whether it's IoT technologies or blockchain, or whether it's drones or, whether it's applications, because, some of the young people who are still in agriculture, they are very much attracted to these kind of smart, more modernized, efficient type of agriculture. And there are also, I think, more investors and financiers who are willing to kind of invest in these type of, so that could be one way of maybe trying to, attract or engage, keep them engaged in agriculture. But, again, there needs to be more increased partnership between community, between, government at the federal, provincial level, also with the private sector, also with development partners. So there needs to be a kind of a collective mechanism, not to just enhance the access to technology and finance, but really to build that institutional capacity, as I mentioned, the community resilience. And also, you need to have a baseline for your interventions. You need to have a roadmap. You need to identify where the gaps are, and you need a resource mobilization plan. And it requires really long-term, institutional engagement, and that also involves, cultivating leadership. You need also youth leadership. You need to empower not just only the young people, but the vulnerable groups that I mentioned. Also, I think de-risking, their, investments and activities is very important, because these are people are already vulnerable to begin with. So you need enhanced social protection instruments and mechanisms to de-risk whatever, for example, agribusiness or enterprises that they're involved in, because without that safeguard, it's very likely that, it's very unlikely that they would even want to experiment, and when they fail, the impacts are even greater than some of the other groups. So I would say that inclusion is also a very important factor.
Thank you for that set of recommendation that you mentioned. Probably this could be help our youth in retaining in agriculture. Now coming to the productivity, because we have seen that there is a productivity growth, but not as encouraging as in the last 50 years. So coming to that question, I would like to ask Dr. Ganesh Joshi, sir, with increasing impact of climate change, we have observed that it is evident more efforts are needed. One is not just to increase the production, but even to sustain the current level of production with the challenges exceeding to feed the growing population. So based on your experience, how do you explain the present state of food security and the challenges faced by agriculture food sector at the global level in general and South Asia in particular for enhancing agriculture productivity and improving the food and nutrition security in the region?
Thank you, Sobanamji. Actually, many things have come up. So with regard to the productivity, before that, let me allow to mention some figures. The situation of food security and nutrition at global level, as well as South Asia and Nepal as well. You see, at the global level, prevalence of undernourishment is just 9.2%, whereas in South Asia it is 15%, almost double. So with regard to the stunting, you see children below 5 years, it is 30% in South Asia, whereas only 22% at the global level. So IPCC has already mentioned that, estimated that by 2050, around additional 180 million people will be at the risk of hunger due to the impact of climate change. In South Asia, around 412 million people severely affected by the climate change. So number of people risk at hunger due to climate change is expected to increase by 11 to 20% by 2050 in South Asia. So and the countries will lose about 2% of the GDP due to climate change. So means even increasing productivity itself may not be enough. So as our land frontier is almost closed, there is very, very less possibility of increasing the land. But only opportunity to us is to increase the productivity. And how to sustain that productivity is also a question. You see, if you look at the 4 dimensions of the food security that was mentioned earlier, our what is the status of food security environment in South Asia is quite low. Availability, it has increased a lot. But in terms of stability and the affordability, access, it is quite low. You see, even the country, India, that ranked 68 out of 113 countries, Nepal 74, Sri Lanka 79, Bangladesh 80, and Pakistan 84. That means situation quite alarming in terms of really strengthening it demands the strengthening of the food security situation. With regard to the productivity, as you mentioned, of course, water, one of the most important factor of production. I recently did a research on the determinants of the agricultural total factor productivity growth in Nepal. The most important factor is the water, irrigation water. As you increase the irrigated area by 1%, it would contribute ATFP growth by around 4%. In addition to that, the connectivity, road connectivity, that also contributes to growth, as well as the investment that you make in the agricultural sector also contribute. Agricultural sector, I'm talking about whole sector, that also contributes a lot. So, in order to really increase and sustain the productivity, probably sustainability is also a question. That's why we should promote that we should repurpose our subsidy regime, not only in Nepal, maybe globally, and even in the South Asia, towards, say, greening, green technology, resilient generation of the climate resilient technologies, as well as the development of infrastructure, green infrastructure, like that. Climate resilient agricultural practices, as our recent data says, one of the most important climate resilient practices, agroforestry practices. In Nepal, only 3% of the households have adopted agroforestry practices. That's why we should focus more on investing on the climate resilient agricultural practices, generation of the technologies, dissemination, connectivity, information sharing, and the development of the infrastructures, pre-production as well as post-production, including the climate awareness or the early warning system. Thank you.
Thank you for your views, Dr. Joshi. As I have been informed that His Excellency Ambassador has to leave a bit early because of his appointment with the Foreign Minister. So I would like to come to you, Your Excellency. We talked about the food production and also the climate resilient agriculture. So we have seen from our earlier deliberations also that implementing climate resilient agriculture demands a strong collaboration and partnership among multi-stakeholders, both at the global level and regional levels, in terms of finance, technology transfer, and capacity building. We have felt that acknowledge there is a need to promote collaboration, partnership, and cooperation among the countries, among the regional groups and scientific and technical institutions. So from your experience, how do you think the global and regional cooperation be strengthened to address food security challenges that is posed by the climate change, given in the political and economic diversity?
It's my honor and pleasure to be among this distinguished panelists and the crowd. I would like to just mention two things. Food security issue has been with the humanity since 3,000 years ago. It's not a new issue. And we still, until today, we did not find the proper solution or cooperation in facing this challenge. The Bible, the Holy Bible and the Holy Quran tells us that during the Pharaoh's time in Egypt, the Pharaoh had a bad dream of 7 fat cows eating 7 thin cows. So he asked for someone to interpret his dream, and it was the prophet Joseph who told him that you will have 7 years of good production of wheat, and in this case we have to save and store food for the other 7 years after that, where will be famine. This was the beginning of food security for a human. Now, I have attended 7 COPs. The issues that have been discussed in these COPs are the same titles differs, but really it is the same. Now, we have developed world and we have less developing world. And we think there is a responsibility, a great responsibility from the developed world toward the less developed world. I travel to Africa, to Asia, to Latin America, to the MENA region and our part of the world, and we see that little support to less developing countries could make a significant difference. Not only by government, but also by private institutions, NGOs, civil society. We need concentrated effort in order to face this challenge. Now, of course, all of you knows that the food production, there is a gap between the consumption and the food production. It ends up that less developed countries or poor societies cannot afford high prices, especially in the time of war. Take example, the Russian war with Ukraine. These two are the two largest producers of grain. The prices went up. Less developed countries cannot really pay that price. So what do? As I mentioned, in all these cups, we have promises and billions of dollars, but there is no honoring of this commitment. Last year, I was in Kenya, and the president of Kenya made remarks about how we hear about billions, but we have not seen millions. Now, if we are really serious about helping each other as world community, facing the food security, I think we should honor our commitment. I think climate change and food security are two faces of the same coin. In some countries, especially our part of the world where scarcity of water, I'm talking about the MENA region, mostly desert, 80% of our, over 80% of our countries are deserts. Fine, maybe we are blessed with oil and gas. Technology also helps in terms of agriculture, but that is very expensive. And the government subsidizes this. Other countries can't. I will share with you that most of the farmers, individual farmers in Africa are women. I think about 60 or maybe more than 60%. And they need all the means of support. Now I know in some developed societies, a dollar does not mean much. But I can tell you, $1 in poor countries bring breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I know what I'm talking about. So it really doesn't take much from well-off countries to really honor their commitment in terms of supporting the less developing countries. The organization I'm director of Global Dryland Alliance. It's a UN organization made out of 12 countries. It has a vision of make dryland countries food secure and contribute to stability and peace in the world. The mission is to work with local, regional, and international partners to identify, disseminate, and implement solutions for agriculture, water, energy challenges in dryland countries. I can't speak about my country, and I'm not trying to, but really when we can and able to support through different programs, we do support some of these less developing countries. I don't want to go much further, but really I just like to give you an idea of the international food security issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for bringing that the issues of the technology might be expensive for the countries, and also the issue of affordability with the food that you have raised the concern, and how can the developed countries support in probably translating those technologies to the developing countries. So now we'll come back to Madam Jha, to Dr. Jha. Because you have experience of working in the National Commission and social sector for a long period of time. How can we ensure that the smallholder farmers of the marginal communities in the mountain areas, they are included in our decision-making processes, and how to make those the food affordable for those communities also? How can we make it more support for them so that they can adapt those to the climate challenges and probably address their food security?
Thank you, Shabnam. This is a question very core to my heart because I have been working very much with the farmers most of the time. And I was, being a member of the National Planning Commission, it was a very good opportunity for me to understand how does it happen at the policy level, how does it happen at the implementation level, and how does it go at the stakeholders level. So there are 3 levels that works together, especially in the mountain as well. So I would say that stakeholders, actually the farmers, I say them, the stakeholders, the major stakeholders, they are the core. And they are at the top of all the planning. And their engagement is at the core. They have to be involved in all of the planning process. All of the thought that we do about the policy making, implementation, they have to be engaged. Until and unless we engage them, we are not going to do justice. So they have to be engaged at all the time. I have been listening, from the morning, I think I have heard so many sessions. And in all of the sessions, I think there is a strong call. And that call is that we have to really work together. We have to work together, collaborate together, coordinate together. And we have to respect the farmers and the local systems that is there, the indigenous food system that is working over there. Because there is something working. It is not that nothing is working. There are so many crises that has come up. And we have to handle that. But then to handle that, we have to really build on whatever is there. So we have to start with that. Especially in Nepal, I would say, we have got a very fertile ground for now, at least. We do have struggles in mountain, and we have got so much of this glacier melting, and then we have to really move from all the policies and planning to make it friendly to the farmers living in all those mountains. We have to be very careful about that. But then there are few things that has happened in Nepal that is very positive about all these things. And the first of it is that we have got the right to food and food security policy. And this policy has kept all the farmers, irrespective of the region, kept all the farmers at the core of the planning. So this farmers' respect has been the major thing. The indigenous food system has been the major thing. Indigenous crop system has to be respected. So there are core things that has been made the part of the act. And that act is so important that anyone can really build on that, and that can go to the local level. And localization has again been very much built into that act. So from the top to the bottom, the localization system and reaching the farmers, this is all built into that act, and that is the very important thing that we have got on board, and we can build on that. The other thing we have very recently done is, all the stakeholders, because we have been talking about multi-stakeholder, multi-sectors, but Nepal has to some extent practiced it in the coordination with the UN system, WFP, especially for the UN food system. Nepal has moved a little bit forward because they have come up with the food system strategy, the transformation, and there where we have got 5 strong action tracks. And those action tracks have considered the climate crisis. So we do have that. We really, the important one among them is to boost the local productive system. So we have to really build on the climate that is there, and we have to really start thinking of how do we really build on that. So these are the things that was really helping us move forward with the climate crisis, and with the farmer putting at the center of the agriculture and the food security. Food security and nutrition security, it has to be considered together. We did talk a lot about the food security, but the nutrition security now is the question. Because even if there is food, the nutrition is not happening over there, and there are so many impacts that we are watching, we are experiencing those things these days. So I think, Shabnam, it is very important that we have got farmers there, and the farmer as at the core, and then we have to respect farmer all the time. And our system is respecting farmer, and we have yet not been able to collaborate much with the farmers in the mountain to bring them on board. And we really need to respect them as the stakeholder, important stakeholder, and engage them in all the planning process. That's going to help us. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing out that the farmers has to be at the core of the process. But we have yet to engage, still a long way to go to engaging the mountain communities, although a lot of positive things has already happened, ensuring the right of the farmers through our ACT and your food system transformation pathways. We're talking about the affordability of the food in the earlier discussion by the panelists. Just reflecting on what the IPCC report that has estimated that under high emission scenario, the affordability of cereals could decline by 1 to 29%. So that makes that millions of people might go into the hunger trap. And additionally, we have observed that there are restrictive trade policies, although we're talking more of the sustainable production system, but I would like to, because you being an economist, I would like to bring this also in the discussion, that restrictive trade policies, while they offer short-term relief, but they can also disrupt trade and worsen the food insecurity in the medium to long run. So in this context, how can countries and regions, they can promote a coordinated climate-resilient agri-food system that fosters cooperation, sustainable agriculture, but also balances the trade that can contribute to food and nutrition security? To you, Dr. Joshi, yes.
Thank you. It's a very, trade itself is a very tricky aspect. So, as you mentioned, economic crisis, shocks, global trade disruptions, and volatile commodity prices, they affect most vulnerable countries as well as the vulnerable people, those who cannot afford import. So we also experienced the price shocks, commodity price increment during Ukraine, although it's still going on, Ukraine-Russia crisis. We did a study here in 5 years: food, fertilizer, fuel, feed, and finance. All components were affected. Even food, we used to import mustard seeds from Russia, crude sunflower oil from Ukraine, and from our neighbors, wheat, even paddy. So, just to cite an example, wheat flour price, that increased from 52 rupees per kilo to 82 rupees within a period of 4 to 5 months. Probably we all have had experienced the price rise. So in this context, I think how should we really promote regional cooperation? Of course, there are agreements. People argue for rule-based trade. Those who put forth the statement of rule-based trade, they really tend to violate themselves. So this has happened everywhere. So we are also part of it. That's why in this context, I think as Usha ma'am pointed out, let us try to strengthen our local food production system first. We do have, in case of mountains, we do have many comparative advantageous commodities. Just to cite an example, the large cardamom, which we export, top agricultural export. Regional is revealed comparative advantage is around 300%. We have uniqueness. In addition to that, non-timber forest products, maps. We have, we can brand it Himalayan product or something like that. So that also supports the households or communities' affordability through supporting, complementing through income increment. So I think this is a crucial part. In addition to that, the regional cooperation. Of course, in SAARC, we do have SAARC Food Bank, SAARC Seed Bank. Honestly, if we contribute to it and be honest to really implement it effectively, we can trade whatever surplus we do have, we can import during the crisis period. This is also a sort of collaboration. In addition to that, I think to support the local production, we should connect with markets. Unless you connect with local, national as well as the regional markets, there will be a havoc, because people or farmers, producers tempted to production, but unless they get a remunerative price of their products, they will be discouraged to produce from the next year onward.
Okay.
I think
Okay,
in this
thank
way
you.
we can build a, of course, investment in infrastructure.
We'll come back to that
Yeah,
again,
sure.
Dr. Joshi. So now I would like to His Excellency Ambassador Al-Dafa, if you have a few, because as you're leaving for the meeting, so just 1 minute to you, maybe if you have to your thoughts on this, because we're expecting questions that might be addressed also to you, but because of the time constraint of yours, maybe a few last words that would like to say, and then I can just request our Honorable Secretary to hand over the token of appreciation to you. Anything you'd like to, some last word of wisdom?
International cooperation is very important, not on papers, but actionized plans to really support the less developing countries. This message has to be heard loudly. The well-off countries have the means to do so. We sometimes surprise, why are you not doing your shares, especially when you make a commitment, honor that commitment. This is one. Also, the private sector has a role to play. Research is also very important. I think what people face in Asia in terms of these challenges are the same one in Latin America, are the same in Africa. Similar also to the challenges that are in the MENA region. So if we have this similarity, why don't we come out with, at the international level, with solution? Of course, there is no one size that fits all. That's impossible. But at least there are basic issues that we can deal with. Thanks God that technology today is helping. My country is a desert country, but with technology today, we have 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, we started growing vegetables and fruits and also exporting to the neighbor countries. We were only able to do that. It is not cheap, but we were able to do it through technology. Now, less developing countries cannot afford that, but if we put efforts to help, and listening to my colleagues here, whether it is water resources, agriculture, I am sure we can reach solution. If we have a good intention, it will happen. If we only make empty promises, we will never get there. This is my message.
Thank you for that wonderful message that we have to stick by our commitments, and of course through the technology we can definitely intervene to enhance production, and how the developed countries should keep supporting the developing countries. So with that measures, I would like to invite Dr. Deepak Kharal, Secretary for the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock, Development to hand over the token of appreciation to His Excellency. Okay, so now before I come back to the panelists, I would like to open the floor for discussion, and then we'll come back with your question and then some follow-up questions to the panelists. Please, kindly introduce your name and please indicate whom your question is intended for, so that and be very specific with the question. Can the volunteers facilitate with the microphone, please? I encourage young and energetic youth also to put forward your questions, because I see that you are the future of the nation.
Thank you. My concern is about the massive flow of youth migration from the country to abroad. In my opinion, this is rather more serious concern than the climate change issues in the countries these days.
Can you also introduce yourself, sir?
My name is Indra Sapkota. I work for Ministry of Forest and Environment. So, in my opinion, this issue is rather more serious than the climate change in the region. Labor sources and agriculture, and hence to the food production. So, perhaps any of you can respond to my concern that what could be done to minimize the trend of youth labor migration from country to the abroad. Thank you.
We'll take a few questions and then we'll get back to the panelist.
Richard Baker. My question is actually to Dr. Mark. In your framework for the water resilience, I would love to know your input on the role of economics at that point. It's something that I focus a lot on, economics of water and how it could reset a lot of the challenges that we face. But I was wondering how that fit into your framework, because it wasn't explicitly mentioned, but it could be one of the things that's underneath. So I'm just curious, how does that fit in, and how does it make the investability of those technologies, policies, processes easier to come to fruition?
Hi everyone. My name is Karun Nakal. My question is to Dr. Mark and Mr. Ken. Uses of technologies like AI and IoT is directly corresponding to the increasing reliance on non-renewable energy. How do we ensure that use of these technologies are accessible, inclusive, and usable for the remote farmers, and they in turn also minimize the climate impact?
Hello, my name is Binay from Institute for Global Environmental Strategies in Japan. So my question is related with migration, and I would like to pose it to Mr. Shimizu-san. Basically, what I have faced from the site and the field is the real problem for the youth less attracted, why they are less attracted to the agriculture is the income. Do we have an approach or any methods so that we can have a monthly income of migrating youth, about 50,000 Nepalese, that is around 300 to 400 US dollar. Can we do that? That's my question. I think that's how we should address migration, because everything boils down to the income. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the panel discussion. It was very interesting. My name is Vanshika, and I work at the Sustainable Food Systems teams at the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. It's a policy think tank based in Delhi. My question, based on the panel discussion, there was a lot of talks on having genetically modified seeds that can help increase productivity. And at the same time, there was a lot of discussion on building local capacities, where a lot of indigenous traditional knowledge comes in, and all our traditional varieties of maybe millets and other kinds of crops. How do we integrate both of them? Because it seems like a trade-off. There is one aspect of increasing productivity through science, but at the same time, not including a lot of the science that we already have. And how can we get that sort of a balance? My question, it can be answered by anybody, but it was specifically for Dr. Mark.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. My name is Kriti Shrestha. I work in DC and Nepal. And my question is, anyone from the panel may take it. My question is more like, when we're talking about food security and climate resilient agriculture, I think one of the aspects that we need to discuss in a more integrated and mainstream manner is how we are preparing to protect our supply chain from climate-induced disasters. We do know that in the frequent years, science is pretty clear that disasters are bound to increase, and it will affect supply chain, the whole supply chain scenario. So how are we trying to make it more resilient and make food security a priority? So that is one. And the second thing that I joined the discussion very late, so apologize if it has already been said, but I think when we're talking about food security and climate resilient agriculture, one of the things that the policy and the practices of Nepal needs to acknowledge is that we have women farmers, where our policies should make these women farmers leaders of climate resilient agriculture. So I think that is a narrative that we shouldn't miss and we should prioritize. Thank you so much.
So we'll take the second round of questions. Let the panelists answer this question first. I think, Mark, you can come at the end, because the question, I encourage the panelists first to answer, and then to Mark, I'll come at the end of the session, okay? So the two questions were related with the migration, directed to Ken, about related with the income, how we can make the agriculture income more attractive for them to retain, and also what is the policy, how we can stop the migration. I think that's a tough question to answer, but I'm sure with your experience you can answer that one.
I'll try to answer in a succinct way, because it could be a very long answer. And yes, agriculture can be efficient, can be profitable, and there can be a sustained, income, and of course, as you said, you are absolutely right. It's not, it's not just, the impacts of climate change, but of course that is also a factor, especially in terms of, migration from, the mountains to more of the, the plain areas. But, I think the question was more about out-migration, and you absolutely said, agriculture systems, production system productivity in Nepal is not productive enough, for young people to be engaged in. So I think the really concise answer to that is you need a coherent combination of policy, agricultural extension, capacity building, and also leadership training. And again, as I said, really a multi-sectoral, community-based kind of, approach where all the actors, at again federal, provincial, local, level government, also development partners, also the banks, private sector, all of these things, we need to have a very coherent, policy framework to really enhance the efficiency and the profitability and the productivity of the agriculture sector. And this requires a lot of things. You need investment in agriculture, you need investment, in infrastructure, you need investment in extension technology, all of these things. But I think what is most important is everything has to be synced and coherent and coordinated. So And at the end of the day, you know, whatever strategy or policy you know, is developed, the implementation of that has to be done in a collective, coordinated, you know, manner. Okay, so I would just finish at that. So I don't know if that was, so, but it can be done. And there is great potential for that in Nepal, but everything has to be aligned. And I would say that requires also, you know, a very, very strong leadership, you know, at all levels.
Would you like to compliment Dr. Joshi? Yes, please.
Just to compliment what Mr. Ken said. Actually, let us look into the macro policy. What is our macro policy? Remittance and contribute to GDP. Now it has reached to 30%. So sectoral policy, unless you review the macro policy of sending youth to work outside and do not ensure their income. Of course, agriculture can retain many youths if their income is ensured. Some micro enterprises, through their capacity building, availing the affordable technology, then some institutional support, and access to finance, of course. So these are really separated, no? You enhance their skills, but no technology, no finance. Sometimes you just ask them to for finance, no capacity, no technology available. So this should be in a package, should be available to them. I think first let us review our macro policy so that we can develop or further promote our sectoral policy, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Joshi. There was a question about the engagement of the women farmers and then producing women leaders. So I think that I'll put that question to Usha Madam. Also in connection with the food system transformation, how we are kind of supporting through the policy and legislation, whether if there are still some gaps so that we can have the more of women leadership in the agriculture and other sector.
Thank you. I think this is a very interesting question, and I would really thank you all, because you know it is nothing can be seen in isolation, and it was really very difficult for me to talk about climate action, climate resilience only impacting farmers, because it is not only the climate resilient and the climate impact on the farmers, it is integrated reasons for that, and one among the most important reason and most impacting reason is the youth migration in Nepal. So I thank Neeraj for that question, because impact of climate change and the youth migration, that is creating a big crisis in mountain. That is making mountain vulnerable. And I was in Dhangadi, and I was doing one stakeholders engagement meeting, and there were people from the mountain as well represented. They were representing there. And they very clearly spelled out, we are not in the priority of the government. No opportunity comes to our place. If there is opportunity to earn money, to engage ourselves in some work, if there is anything that we can do there, why would we come to Kathmandu, or why would we go to Dubai or Qatar or anywhere to earn money? So the opportunity needs to go to those places. We need to make the part of the system. We need to make the part of the. We have policies. It is not because I have worked at the policy level, I see there are so many things that is already allocated in the policy. But the policy does not go to them. It hasn't yet gone to them, and that's why youth migration is happening a lot. The impact of climate change is there. The impact of climate change is making their life hard, but the response from the government is not there, so they are migrating from there. Youth is, and they have to earn money. So most of the mountain, I would tell you the reality that in most of the mountain, if there are any families, there is a very old house and there is a one old woman and a one old man. That's the reality, especially in the mountain region of Nepal. So it is becoming vulnerable because of the population getting lower over there and the facilities getting lower over there, and climate is already it's already a big animal over there. So everything is there, but we have yet not been able to really give a good solution. The solution is also there, but the priority has to go to that mountain region. The priority is to be taken by us, and it can be collaborated in a coordinated way, collaborated way. So in integration, because there are so many things, good things that is happening there, if we as I said before, if we can capitalize on whatever can be done over there, whatever is already existing there, and we can build on that, then possibly people will stay there, youth will stay there, but what we are doing is we are only looking at the remittance. So that's I don't know, that there might be some positive side of it, but I think youth migration is definitely not a positive thing that is happening in our country. So we have to be very vigilant about that, and we have to strategize that. Productivity, I think Anshika or someone said that the productivity and the indigenous food priority and the food system priority, these are two different things. But then with the stakeholders engagement, what I have learned is what they are saying is we have got the policy at the national level that, okay, we will bring private sector on board, we will be cooperative on board, we will bring everyone on board. But when you go to a village, whatever institutions are there, irrespective of private, irrespective of government, irrespective of civil society, UN, everybody is already there and on their board, and they are working together. So working together culture a little bit exists there at the grassroots level where people are there, and it is only because of the decentralization approach that Nepal has taken. So I think there are few things. Productivity is not increasing because of the climate problem, the impact of climate, but then they are now, as a result, they are promoting the indigenous food system, and they are trying to feed themselves in a better way, in a nutritive way. But the other side, the negative side of it is that we have got so many junk food excess over there, and people have money because there is remittance coming to them, there is money coming to them, and they buy the junk food and they eat it. So there is another threat to their nutrition status as well. So I would say that we have to work in an integrated manner with bringing all the interventions together, and we have to build the community institutions. If we are able to build the community institutions, possibly youth will be engaged into those community institutions. They will take the ownership of that, and that might decrease a little bit of youth migration. This is very threatening for all of us, that youth migration is happening very much in Nepal, and we have to be very much vigilant about that. Thank you. Thank you, Shabnam.
Thank you for that views, madam. Now, I don't know, is that the running sign for this session? Because I've been told to finish this session by 6:15, so we have about 15 minutes left. So now I'll come to Mark about, there were two questions related to you, one by about the economies of the water, and then about the affordability of the technology. Maybe you can quickly put your thoughts on this.
Sure, and then there was a third one about genetics.
GMO and the local indigenous technology.
No, thank you for the question on the way the framework or economics relates to the framework. Definitely something worth exploring further. I think each of those components of the framework has an interface, obviously, with economics that will shape the way that decisions are made and behaviors play out in each of those different dimensions. I mentioned also the Global Commission on the Economics of Water, and I think that in a very brief sense, the thing to draw from in trying to answer your question is they emphasize the importance of reflecting in the way that we manage and make decisions about water, and we can apply this across all four of those dimensions. We need to reflect on the full value of water and the values of water in all the different dimensions of value, including that we have in societies. So it would be interesting to dive further into that framework and the way that interface works across there. Thank you. In terms of access to technologies and information, on the energy component to that, I think the driver that we have to be cognizant of there is the need to accelerate, just as in other aspects of our economy and society, to accelerate the energy transition, right? In terms of access, in CGIR, in IMI, we really emphasize trying to ensure that our that inclusion is a component in the way that we design and roll out and scale technologies, including information technologies. So ensuring that we have embedded in those technologies the principles that help us do that better. I would say that one of the things, of course, that's changing now is the scale of data and the scale of and the flexibility of using different kinds of data in new ways, which means that there's huge volumes of data that could potentially make access to those to that data and the information technologies associated with it more complicated, less inclusive. But on the other hand, there are tools, and artificial intelligence, the way I naively understand it, helps us sort through, if we design things well, sort through so that we can have appropriate interfaces, accessible interfaces for information and data, for farmers, for local communities, tailor those for local governments, etc., in ways that are going to be easier than has been the case in the past. But definitely work in progress, and a good, excellent point to raise. On the question of genetic innovation, I very strongly take your point. Sorry, I can't see who asked the question, but I very strongly take the point that alongside that must be crop diversity and crop diversification, and in a more elaborate version of that framework, that would certainly be there. I would only caveat that by saying when we talk about genetic innovation, that's not all genetic modification, and certainly conventional crop breeding has an enormous role relative to increasing the drought resilience of our staple crops as well, drought and flood resilience as well. So thank you.
There's a question about the supply chain resilience. Would any of the panelists would like to respond to that? About the supply chain, there's a question about how we can make our supply chain more resilient, not just the food production. Anyone can answer to that one quickly?
Yeah, thank you. Especially not in the mountain region, in all of the regions, I think the supply chain is very important core component of the productivity, and we have to really be careful about it. I would link that with the action tracks that Nepal has formulated, because this is now going to be our future strategy. It is a part of the future strategy that the National Planning Commission and this ministries, multi-stakeholders and multi-sectors have come together, and they have developed this. So I would just tell what are those 5 action tracks that includes everything into that, and that will respect all the value chain points as well. So I think the first is ensure safe and nutritious food for all. That is the first one. We have kept it at the top. And the second one is shifting to sustainable consumption pattern. We have to have it a sustainable consumption pattern. So we are promoting indigenous because we have to have a sustainable something. We do something, but it doesn't continue. So we have to work with that. There where we would bring in all the players, the value chain players over there. And then we would do boosting nature productive, the production, nature friendly production. There are steps to that, because we will have to link the research and development to the mountain and the hills and the tarai, because the diversity is the beauty of Nepal. So we have to have very different type of researches that has to go on to link it with the development. So that is the part of that we have to do that. And we have also tried to build the equitable livelihood for everybody. So we have that we will bring that livelihood to the mountains as well, so that there are opportunities that gets created for the people living over there. And building resilience to vulnerability, shocks and stresses. So climate change is already there. So value chain actors are in all of the 5 action tracks, and we are putting them all together. So there are lots of description we have. If you are interested, you can visit the website and you can find it there. But I've just read the points for you, because we have tried to make it Pentagon points so that we really reach the farmer and the stakeholders and engage them in our overall development process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My apologies that I will not be able to take any further questions due to the time limitation. So I'll try to sum up the discussion quickly. I'll just go over there, and then following that, we'll have the token of appreciation for all our panelists and speakers. First of all, I would like to give a round of applause to our speaker, our keynote speaker, and all the panelists, and also to you, wonderful audience, which I put up many questions here, and the interesting questions. So kudos to you all. Just to sum up on, a quick sum up on the discussion that we had, Dr. Mark, he presented on emphasizing the climate change perspective from the water perspective, the challenges of the water and how water and other technology can be solutions to promote the climate resilient technology, climate resilient agriculture technologies. He shared about some of the climate resilient management framework that talks about the technology and infrastructures, also about the system development, some information and learning and sharing of those informations. And when talking about the technology and infrastructure, I think there need to be, the concerns here has been raised by the floor also about those technology to be more accessible, to be more affordable, and also reaches to the youth and other vulnerable communities. So that is very important. At the same time, whenever we're talking about the investment, be it in the infrastructure or in the technology, that has to be more resilient, more green, focused on the green, and to that line we also need to repurpose our subsidy probably. And it also came up very strongly about the institutional development, whether we want to have the mountain communities developed or we want to retain the youth in the agriculture. I think there has to be the reform in the institutional support, including the capacity development, the collective effort and collective effort that has come out very strongly. Again, there is the access to finance is also critical for the adoption of the technology, and also to support youth in taking up the agriculture. The support in the indigenous and indigenous agriculture production, the indigenous knowledge is equally important. And then the one clear message was about how we reach to the stakeholders, because the farmers here, when we are talking about the climate resilient agriculture, farmers are the key, as they are the producers, and how the key stakeholders, the farmers, the women farmers, the young farmers, how they are reached by the policy, and how we reach to those stakeholders, and how we enhance their capacity to make the food system more sustainable. So that has come out very strongly, and also due to the time limitation, we couldn't touch upon some of the measures, because when we are talking about the social safety net or other building resilience through the insurance support, enhancing the resilience capacity through the development of the early warning system, that is already in place. How we can enrich and strengthen those systems, those early warning system and agriculture insurance, so that the farmers are more adaptive, more resilient in that matter. That has also come out very strongly. And last but not the least, there is a strong idea from the panelists and from the speaker also that we have to make our community more resilient, the community and support to the more integrated manner. And also when you talk about the regional and global arena, I think the collaboration is needed at the regional and global level, and also how the global communities, the developed countries, can support our less developed countries to the technology and through other support measures to make this food production system more affordable and more resilient, and ensuring the food and nutrition security in the region. So I think that those ideas have come out very strongly. And then when we're talking about the agriculture and when we're talking about the climate resilient agriculture, we should not forget again the trade, because whenever you have how far you put your effort to increase and enhance production and productivity, but when there is some kind of trade disturbances due to the conflict or some other measures, then that has a real implication on the food security, right from the price of the food and availability of the food. So I think that has to be also, for that one also we have to strengthen our capacity at the farm level, enhance our capacity at the mountain communities, so that we're more competitive and also get benefited by the regional mechanisms that are already in place. So with that, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you very much once again, and I would like to now invite Dr. Deepak Kharal, Secretary for the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock, to hand over the token of appreciation to the speakers and the panelists. And over to the madam, please.
Thank you so much, our esteemed panel members, keynote speaker, and our moderator. Since we've come to the end of our session today, and we are very short on time, and I believe our moderator here has very beautifully and has put out the whole panel today. Therefore, without further ado, I would like to request Dr. Deepak Kumar Kharal, the Secretary of Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, to hand over the token of love. Firstly, I would like to request our keynote speaker, Dr. Mark Smith, to kindly step forward. Now I would like to request our moderator for our panel, Ms. Sabram Shivakoti, Joint Secretary of former spokesperson in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. Now I would like to request our Dr. Deepak Kumar Kharal to hand over the token of appreciation to our panelists. Firstly, I would like to request Dr. Usha Jha, former National Planning Commission member, to kindly step forward. Moving on, I'd like to request Dr. Ganesh Raj Joshi, former Secretary of Government of Nepal, to kindly step forward. Lastly, I would like to request Mr. Kem Shimju, country representative of Nepal and Bhutan for FAO, to kindly step forward. Thank you so much. With this, we've come to the end of our session. Before our panel members and Dr. Deepak Kumar Kharal step off the stage, we'd like to request a group photo with the panel members. I'd like to request everybody to kindly stand up for a photo. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time, and we look forward to engaging to a very informative session tomorrow as well. With this, we have been told to vacate the hall by 6:15. Therefore, I'd like to request everyone to do the networking discussion outside the hall. We look forward to engaging with you all tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time.
सत्य, तथ्य, निष्पक्ष अनि खोजमूलक समाचारको साथमा एभरेस्ट न्यूज।